Good afternoon and welcome to UnitedTV. My name is Kemal Erkan. Today we are going to have one of our executive members of Brandywine Valley SPCA, Mike Kaviani, is going to be with us. So about a little over a year ago, Mike, you were here, and it's great to have you again. So the way that we have with these live episodes, it's we want to make sure that one is all healthcare focused, but the main thing is also community focused. We want to make sure our community issues are also being addressed. So Brandywine Valley SPCA has a very important role in the society that we live in. For anyone who may not be familiar with Brandywine Valley SPCA, is one of the region's largest open access animal welfare organization. And the way that we are able to do is almost like 27,000 live animals every year we are able to serve from Pennsylvania to New Jersey, Washington, D.C., and of course, Delaware. So many of you follow this show, and we have many of you know my personal connection to the animals, and everyone knows Buddy and now Joshua. And Buddy was the reason that I got involved, and I'm one of the executive board members of Brandywine. And we are going to have a conversation with Mike, and we are going to welcome him. How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm excited to be here. It's been already a year since I was
It's
here. That's
actually it's
crazy.
a little over a
that,
year,
right? Yeah.
so it
Wow.
feels like it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
So now, how do you like our studio?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, well, it's been since I was back. I mean, this is nice. It's
Good,
comfy. It's
comfortable, right?
relaxing. Yeah.
So, well, many people they think about SPCA as just the adoption, pet adoption center, but as you are fully involved with the organization, it's much more than what it is. So, if for those who already may be familiar somewhat, but not knowing everything else with us, so what makes the Brandywine SPCA different than any other traditional animal shelters?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there's so many ways. I mean, I think you, Kamal, hit it even in your intro, just the span of our impact. We really try to be there for as many pets and people that, are involved in this, scope. We try to be there as far and wide as we can. So, I mean, we are operating in Delaware, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and now, the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. So I think, first and foremost, just how far our reach is. We have partnerships with communities throughout the country when it comes to either natural disaster response, when it comes to being there to support communities that don't have as much access to adoption or to spay neuter and things like that. So it's that local and national, I think, reach that sets us apart. And then, you mentioned adoption services. No question, that's one of our core services to the community. But to your point, I mean, we're there to help animals find their original owners. We do a lot to make sure we're reuniting pets with their original owners, and we do so much to keep pets in the homes that they already are through all of our services, where we can provide free or low cost, support to pet owners who may be struggling. We want to always keep pets where they're at. And then through our animal health centers, we are offering affordable but high quality access to vet care throughout all of our communities, and that is so often the downfall to what fractures families from their pets is, a lack of access to quality care. So we get to be a part of that solution, in all of our communities. And I think the list goes on, but we're really proud of how many areas in our country we're able to support, and to make sure that in those areas, the people and the pets that love them are being served as comprehensively as possible.
Sure. Now, being in the places like PA, Delaware, and even New Jersey, so we are not right in the core city like Philadelphia, DC, or New York. So we have our new location services in DC, and DC is a challenging place. So it's much different than being in Newcastle, Delaware.
Sure.
and it brings different obstacles. And but the expertise that we have, I know this is helping us in so many different ways. But uh, from the executive level, how does the new Ivy City Adoption Center help to support the mission in the DC location?
Again, I think it comes back to accessibility and visibility. You know, where with being able to get that our new adoption location in Ivy City, it's connecting pets to the community in an even more accessible way. So pets that are ready for adoption, that are looking for their new adoptive home, getting them out into the community. And that's a huge part is, you know, we really believe that our shelters are welcoming places, places that the public can absolutely feel safe and happy to visit, you know, not the sort of antiquated, they're these sad, you know, places. But that being said, there's still that image people have of not maybe feeling comfortable to go find their local animal shelter. So having this such a vibrant adoption center like what we just opened up in Ivy City, I think just opens that many more doors, gives people that many more opportunity to visit, to see that there's opportunities to adopt, there's opportunities to foster and volunteer and donate. It's right next to Target, you know, and I think that's pretty cool because everyone loves going to their local Target. And so while folks in DC are out there shopping at Target,
that I haven't been there.
I know, right? Yeah, I mean it's dangerous. You're going to go to Target, you're going to go adopt a pet. I mean, like, what else do you need? But I think that's just it. Is just getting the mission and the cause and the call to help right there where the community is. That many more pets will be served. That many more people will be served. You know, by extending that location.
So, you know, the others, you know, I think one of the main issues that we have in DC is it's a different population, like different demographics. So, uh, just like totally different domain.
Sure.
So, without the proper expertise in place, I know Adam, our CEO, is I call him like I think he's crazier than I am in some days, like in some areas.
Yeah.
So he sees those opportunities, and being able to utilize those expertise actually is really important. And you know, at the end of the day, this is a nonprofit organization, and we are trying to serve in these communities. So now one, and then, you know, I don't want to fake some of these questions because I'm the VP of the board,
Sure.
and I'm not day to day I'm involved, but I know some of these. But I just want to make sure that our audience is able to learn more about it. So I don't want people to say that does he not know the answer. So I may,
Right.
but I want to make sure that people hear it directly from you. When these expansions are happening, how is that process work? So how do we decide to take another facility or another operations in different areas? How do we make that decision?
Yeah. For sure. I mean, I think at our core, we're always on the lookout for opportunities to help more pets and to help more communities. So I think just first and foremost, we're kind of always at the ready. So if an opportunity comes up, there's already that, I think, reflex to say, here's another opportunity. Let's dive in and assess, you know, whether we have obviously the bandwidth to actually now respond, you know, to this opportunity. And then from there, you know, of course, we're assessing the community, we're assessing the, you know, any of the data that we need to look at when it comes to, you know, previous service providers, previous, data around animal intake, around all of that, and then really looking at our resources, really looking at what we could do to say yes, you know, and that's, I think, again, like an ethic of ours is we're always looking for the next opportunity to impact pets and people. And so with that being our reflex, then we just kick into kind of that assessment phase of whether this is something that we can confidently say yes to. from a standpoint of knowing that if we say yes, we're going to bring, our standards to that, to that community. So we want to make sure we're doing it responsibly and correctly. And so with Washington D.C., all of that went down, and then we emphatically said, yeah, we have to do it. We have to bring this to the nation's capital.
Right. So,
Yeah.
I think it was, I'm trying to remember the time. Was it March that I was in DC with the hockey game?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, even though I'm involved, like I know I should know many of these things. So, I was there only for one of my friends from Toronto. His wife and one of his son plays hockey. I know you're a big fan.
Oh yeah.
So we went to the Washington Arena, and then all of a sudden I see some familiar, like not faces, but some of our logos
Yeah.
around, like while we were going through
Right.
the
It's
seats.
right there. Yeah.
But also like there were stands and stuff. So I'm like, are we already here? I mean, this is, of course, we have the center, but I didn't know that we were going to be in the hockey game. So I'm like, oh, there are already puppies, and
Yeah.
and our volunteers, they were like working there. And it was, one of those, times where you feel like this is how it works.
Yeah.
So, and it's always challenging, but this is what people do. That was a Sunday, so it doesn't matter which week of the day of the week is. And then I go in, and during the game, so our big, I think I sent you and Adam
Yeah.
a picture, the text. So then Brandywine SPCA is on the big billboard right in the middle. I got like little palpitation. I'm like, oh,
Right.
this is really
Isn't it
cool.
amazing? Yeah.
So now that's kind of new, I believe, for us, right?
Getting into like sports,
And also in the
stadiums and all
bigger
of that. Yeah.
kind of like those big
Yeah.
platforms.
Yeah.
And in the DC operation, what was maybe one or two really important things that we learned from the DC operations?
I mean, I think it's been interesting because you mentioned all of the challenges that, the DC area may pose. I mean, it's such a densely populated space, and so in one way it's different. In other ways, the core work is still the same, And so I think in terms of what we've learned, it's that balancing act of staying true to, for me, one of the more interesting experiences that comes from it, if that makes sense.
No, it does.
Yeah.
It does. So, and also like I think I mentioned earlier, like the demographics, the population, they have different dynamics. So, being in the city, and some of those individuals, they have a little bit maybe faster uh, trend on maybe changing a job, or
Sure.
relocation, going in and out, and those always impact their retention with the
Right.
animals. So someone in like Newcastle County may be more settled, or Westchester may be
Right.
more settled, but the city life is much different from that point. And but I think I see a great opportunity for Brandywine Valley, as this is going to help those who may have more resources to learn more about what we do.
Sure.
And then that way we can actually help more animals and more people.
Yeah.
So as we were saying in the beginning, the way that we are operating, this is not about just adopting.
And then from there, I think we're just, we've grown into an organization that always stays true to the core of being there to support our local communities through adoption, through pet retention, and all of that. And then I think we've now grown to being an org that, again, is always looking as far and wide as we can to be there to support any community or any person that, that is in need. And so I think for us, growing from that traditional animal shelter to this national presence, I think it's through that really consistent, again, standard of those core services, so that we know that everyone in our community, we are there to serve. We're there to serve all of our local community, but then not stopping there, and being able to say that through all of these comprehensive programs, whether it be adoption, whether it be helping pets find their homes that they were lost from, keeping pets in their home, and then the pets that are already in homes, making sure that we have that access to quality care. And then from there, you build on top of it. Now, to the shelter industry at large, let's be there to mentor. Let's be there to support through everyday mentorship. Let's be there to support through crises, and then from there, we're not only impacting the communities that we're currently physically in, but we're spreading that type of humanitarian work, to as many communities around our country that need help in whatever way they need help.
Mhm.
And to me, that's what's so special, is that it is incredibly special for a shelter to be a very great top performing animal shelter in their community. That's incredible.
Right.
But
Right.
then when you build on top of that our drive and our ethic to say we're going to maintain that and make sure that we're always there for our community, but we're not going to stop there. We're going to continue to then be a resource to all of these other communities around the country.
Mhm.
That's, I think, what that growth and that, kind of transition has really impacted. That's how we've impacted the country at large, through that.
So speaking of this impact, like we are trying to be there and responding when there are those crises in the animal domain. So recently there was one large-scale rescue cases. Animals were found unsafe, overcrowded, and many of them neglected. It's just, it's always sad.
Yeah.
So I mean, I stop kind of comparing animal domain with the human domain,
Okay.
so people
Yeah.
get, they misunderstand what we are
Sure.
trying to say. It's just like the animals don't have their own voice, and we have greater responsibility for them.
Sure.
With these large scale rescue cases, what we are doing is pretty amazing. So, but these situations, it reveals a lot of maybe information and reality check on the animal welfare today. What do you see those challenges, and what is the actual you know welfare issue that you see there? Like, how do we get to that point?
Yeah, it's really complex. I mean, it's a great question, and it's one that I think has really hard answers. There's, I think where people are suffering, animals are going to be suffering, and so we know that, life can be hard in a lot of different ways in a lot of different places. And I think if there's a person out there who's struggling in whatever ways they're struggling,
Hmm.
and and that's where animals are going to be struggling. And so I think that's, in terms of what we're learning or what it teaches us or what we're exposed to. Yeah, I think those are some of the things that we within animal welfare, sometimes feel powerless because we can't solve the systemic, human crises that are out there, whether it be mental illness or, poverty or whatever it is, right? But we know that there's always that intersection because of how integrated pets are, to our families in this
Right,
country.
right.
There's always going to be that integration of pets and people. I think, certainly we see cases in which there are, truly wrongdoers who are intentionally exploiting animals, and those are extremely difficult because there's obviously, there's a level of intentional mistreatment there, and that's really hard to stomach. And that's where we, then would always work to see what kind of justice can be, carried out in respect to the animals. But then in so many cases, there's, I think, more tangled, complicated answer of what did go wrong here, what happened to the person and how did it devolve to this, and I think there's such a need in animal welfare for there to be, homes for pets, that I do think, we had that case in Delaware last year where, someone was trying to, in their belief, they were doing good work for
Right.
animals, right? But where does that then, the scales now start tipping towards, now the animals are back into a bad
It's not even a
situation.
fine line. I think they should really know, but part of it is the education, understanding what it is. And, we have seen, of course, a lot of sad cases, but um, it's just like people really need to be more aware of these situations, so
Sure.
then someone who's part of that may not actually understand what's happening, but if everyone knows what the standards are, so then we can actually maybe call them out
Yeah.
and maybe report them in some
Yeah.
cases. Um, you know, uh, Animals, the way that, I mean, everyone probably can relate to this. So you can abuse your animal and they will allow you.
Sure.
That's kind of like, well, it's like, I can't say this for cats probably, but the dogs, uh, like we see some of those videos where they are torturing them, and then they want them to do certain things, and they do because they are fearful, yet they're not able to leave those people. They're not running away because
They're
that's
dependent on it.
that's what it is, right? So when the situation is like that, and even in some cases, I'll tell you this, in some behavioral issues with the abuse cases in human life, people are not able to leave easily
Yeah.
if they don't know that they're
Totally.
abused.
Yeah.
So, but of course, this is at a different level
Sure.
with the animals. So now with the rescue animals, especially after these major issues, uh, there is this, not every animal is ready to be adopted right away.
Sure.
Tell us what that process is. How do we get them ready? And then I know our numbers are amazing, so probably best maybe in the country in terms of being able to find them partners and the adoption rates in
Sure.
terms of how we are able to keep the community engaged. But not every animal is going to be ready from day one. So what are the things that we do to get them ready?
For sure. I mean, to your point, when we are responding to a large cruelty or neglect case, I mean, there's the first immediate response is obviously just getting the pets to safety and, getting them out of the situation they're in and getting them into a safe environment where at that point, the work starts. Where, of course, there's always first the assessment of their medical in terms of what is their current condition, what are their current needs? Do any of them need emergency medical care? Do they need bathing, grooming? Do they need to be started on treatment plans for any of the medical issues that they may come in with? All at the same time, we're then present to their emotional and mental health as well, from what they've been through in each and every case, whether it's neglect, which is of course a form of abuse, but that's, going to be a more prolonged situation versus, more acute abuse. We're looking at each pet as an individual and, they teach us so much in these moments that we've learned so much about just how resilient pets can be. We receive pets from truly deplorable conditions, and yet I would say the vast majority, once we've cleaned them up, bathed them, shown them some warm blankets and love, and brought them out for some playtime, the vast majority are ready pretty quickly, to find a new home. And that's really inspiring. And that's what really kind of helps us pick ourselves back up, because when we get hit with some of these, I mean, you can't help but get knocked down by the emotions of it. But when you see that the dogs and the cats that have experienced this are the ones who so quickly are saying, hey, what's next? What's next, guys? I'm ready. I mean, that's really like the work right there. For the pets that need a little bit more time, then it's a quiet place to recover. A foster home is often where we will, let that pet recover. The warmth and comfort and love of a foster home who's going to be showing them the complete opposite experience of what they've experienced in life. And sometimes these pets need to learn how to be a dog, how to be a cat, how to be in a home. And then from there, we're getting to know their individual needs, behavioral needs, medical needs, and then we can make some, special kind of more specialized matches, from there, if any of them are going to need to live a life where they are going to have some special, accommodations in their life. And that's okay, but it's that round the clock, get them safe, get them comfortable, get them healthy, figure out what they need from a training standpoint, from an enrichment standpoint, and then as soon as humanly possible, show them the love and the stability of a home from there.
So the foster care, and I'll tell you this. So every once in a while, when I'm home on the weekends, like I'm like, I could help little bit more.
Right, right, right. You're
So,
doing a ton. Come on.
so, but like I'm like, well, there are space. There's this, there's that. Like last time we had the kitten issues, like a couple of weeks ago,
Sure.
I almost drove down to the shelter to get a couple of them, and then I'm like, but then what am I going to do on Monday? So, and then cats they don't need as much attention as
Yeah, yeah,
dogs, but they
for
still
sure.
do need.
Oh yeah.
But then you kind of weigh this issue of like when we need foster families. Just educate me on this one, and I'm just asking this from the personal
Yeah.
standpoint. So even if we don't have the perfect maybe conditions at home, let's say, but we have enough willpower,
Yep.
there are those times where we are fully kind of like maxed out.
Oh yeah.
So those animals are still maybe better off if they are able to get some relief in the foster families. Is that a fair assessment?
100% true. And I love how you put it that you may not have the ideal setup at home, but you have the willpower. And that's the perfectly put, because that's exactly what real life is for everyone. You know, I mean,
Right.
every pet owner out there has work, has kids, has life, you know,
Mhm.
and there we still find a way, you know, to be there for our pets. Some days we go to bed saying, oh my gosh, today was a fantastic day for my dog or my cat. I had so much time to play with them. Some days we say, oh my gosh, buddy, you know, we're going to bed and I'm sorry, tomorrow I'll get you out for more walks, you know,
Right.
and that's life. And so I think you juxtapose that with the life of living in an animal shelter versus living in the comfort of a foster home. You know, we're proud of the experience we can provide our pets in our shelters, but no matter what, there's no way it compares to the comfort of a home, you know. And so spot on. If anyone's ever considering fostering, don't overthink it. Don't be thinking you have to be this perfect model home that you're holding yourself to this standard that prevents you from making
Hmm.
an impact on this dog or this cat. They're going to be that much more comfortable and happy in a home environment. You're giving them the opportunity to learn or practice how to be a pet. You're learning about them and learning information that we then can utilize in our matchmaking and our marketing for that pet. And all along the way, no matter what we can provide them in the shelter, there's going to be so much happier in a home. And then again, our adopters are real humans just like any of us, who are always balancing their pets, their lives. And so I think that's a really great way that you put it. And I would absolutely encourage folks to do that.
So for those who are watching this, so if they never fostered before,
Yeah.
well, we kind of addressed why this is important, but what would be the process of them becoming a foster family?
For sure. You can either go on the website and it'll direct you on who to contact, when it comes to inquiring to foster, or you can just literally walk into any of our locations. We're always looking for fosters. So we welcome fosters with open arms. Really, almost every pet in our care is available to go to a foster home. So
Mhm.
we would match make just like we would any adoption. So if you're interested in fostering, we would get to know what your comfort levels are, what your home dynamics are through just a conversation with you. And then from there, we would match you with the appropriate foster pet. We'll send you home with supplies, food, whatever you need. And then we're there to be a resource after the pet's in your home as well. Because, again, you don't have to have all the answers or all the supplies. We'll be there to help you with that. So, yeah, come in, go to the website or just come on in and we'll start the combo.
So do we need the foster family standpoint, from the foster family standpoint, do we need more for the dogs or for cats?
This time of well, we always need both. So I will just there will never be a time in which we don't need both species. Summer is certainly the hottest time for animal shelters, not just temperature wise, but intake wise. We are in kitten season right now.
Hmm.
So when the temperature goes up, that's when we also see an influx of kittens coming into our shelters. So now's a good time to, if you are interested in foster kittens. Foster kittens are always at a premium, when it comes to foster homes for them this time of year until the weather gets cold, and then we start to see a reduction in kittens coming in.
Mhm.
So we always need dog fosters all year round. And then on the cat side, we always need cat fosters, but from spring till end of summer is where we really need fosters for kittens to be, raised in the comfort of a home until they're ready for adoption, and then they're big enough for adoption, and then you get to welcome them into their homes. It's really rewarding. All of it's rewarding, but on the kitten side, my wife and I joked before we had our actual children that it was actually really great training for us, when it came to taking care
True.
of a little one around the clock and bottle feeding and all of that. Yeah,
So that means like anyone really
yeah,
can do
anyone,
this.
100%.
So I'll think about that.
There you go.
So
There you go.
now we do a lot of different events throughout the year. Some of them they're all different events, but I think the mega adoption, which we just did
Yeah.
last week, that was another great success, I believe. But these are giant events.
Yeah.
And I know when we look at organizations, nonprofits, I mean, staffing may not be at the best level. Yes,
Right.
we have volunteers, but it has its own challenges because they are not, like there every day with us. So the
Sure.
communication and other things. So uh, this year, was it better than year before?
Yeah, we
And
absolutely.
why do you think we were more successful this year?
I mean, it's hard to say definitively. I would say that, every year we put a ton of emphasis on making sure we have a wide range of pets there to fit every walk of life. We have, the appropriate amount of people there to help, staff members who know the pets and know how to take care of them, volunteers that are there eager to support and help. I think potentially our marketing team, I think, would probably say that they may have, really pulled out even more stops this year
Hmm.
when it came to spreading the word, that this opportunity was there.
Sure.
Same location, as the year before as well. So I think, we're just always really excited to learn when you put all of those parts of the puzzle together, what is the outcome, every year. This year, yeah, we did almost 1,300 adoptions. It was the final count was, I
Like
think,
2 days,
1,000,
right? It
but
was,
in 2 days, yeah,
right.
1,290 adoptions in 2 days, which is, I mean, it's bananas. That's crazy,
And all the paperwork and everything
yeah,
is done right. So like,
yeah,
it's a lot of responsibility.
for sure.
Now, I think one of the things that maybe we discussed at the last episode last year is there are certain things that we do really good in this country, and I think the awareness of animals, the adoption rates, and our education level probably for animals. And maybe, like, I don't want to say, well, when I say this, I'm going to be probably in trouble with the Turkish audience, but I think we do love the animals more than other countries uh, do. So, and this is really part of our culture here.
Mhm.
So, and in Turkey these days, there's a lot of discussions with they have a really big stray animal
Right. I remember you
issue.
mentioning that. Yeah.
Now, I'm taking a risk here, so
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
thinking.
All right.
So I don't want to put you on the spot, but because it's in a different country, so you won't be in trouble. It will be me. So sometimes I struggle. What would be the best way to kind of handle this issue? So you have, um, and then also like our audience here could just relate and maybe feel they can have a better feel about how other countries do these things. But a stray animal in any country, um, I don't think we should see any animals on the street.
Sure.
The cats is one thing, but the dogs, they are pack animals, and you have two kids, right? And we both love animals. So nothing can be more important than your kids. Like, well, I'm not talking about other kids, of course, but your kid comes first.
Sure.
So, and the safety of your kid is important. So, and there's this issue of some people, so they call themselves animal lovers, and then they're like, oh yeah, the street animals, we need to feed them on the street. Some people like they like these, they call themselves like educated people, but they go out there and then feed these animals on the street, and that's not what they need, at least in my opinion. And I think maybe they're also struggling to understand. You know how earlier we were talking about, this person who thought he was helping,
Right.
and he didn't know
Sure.
any better. So, and I feel like that's where the animal lovers in Turkey these days are. So they think that animals have right to live on the street.
Mhm.
Uh, do you have any suggestions? Like if we were to open next shelter in Turkey, or they put us in the animal welfare project that they have, how would we overcome those issues?
I don't know. Come on. I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot, but how do we solve it? I mean, I don't have answers on how to solve, like, another country and culture's, sort of what that valuation is of dogs versus cats, and where they live and shouldn't live. I think, you know, I know that there are countries across this world where that is, the picture you paint is not dissimilar in a lot of these countries, where there are now more potentially modern approaches occurring, actual more modernized animal shelters that are trying to, I think, spend some amount of effort to try to at least reframe, what is considered humane, when it comes to the
Hmm.
way in which animals should live. I mean, I've had conversations with, folks who run animal shelters in parts of the Middle East or parts of, of Central America, where, a lot of it is me learning, like kind of what they're dealing with every day. But I've talked to people who run animal shelters in those communities, who, and that's what I'm present to, is they are really trying to use their facility and their organization to try to set a different example, and try to then within that community create that many more generations of people who maybe learn to see pets differently as new generations are exposed to
Hmm.
a different model or a different mentality. I think that's, as I'm just kind of spitballing with you, is potentially the strategy, is to bring some of that, modernized way of providing sheltering and humane, efforts to pets, and then seeing if you can then create a movement with, I think, the more younger generations who don't have the, decades of this is just what happens, right? I mean, we're even doing that ourselves in this country when it comes to like our critter camps or the things that we do with the young generations in our country. We have kids coming into our animal shelters to spend their birthday parties, to spend summer camp. And I think our goal there is similar in that we are raising these kids to then become adults who see the whole plight of animal shelters through the lens we want them to see, because not every single person in this country knows that shelter pets aren't broken, that animal shelters are not a scary place,
Hmm.
that, pets should be treated with that love and humanity that we believe. So I feel like on a grander scale, that is probably the strategy when it comes to Turkey or any other countries, is just seeing if you can show that other example, and then see if you can then bring on the younger generations to then say, hey, that's different and I want to support that, than supporting like the status quo, I guess. That's what I can think of.
No, that's
Yeah.
good. I think one of the big issue that I see is the adoption rate.
Sure.
So like these like really like activists, people who are for animals, they don't have animals at their
Mm,
home. So I'm like, can we just,
mm,
start with that? And also
sure.
like the idea of understanding, look, this dog abandoned and cannot live on the street. So needs a place, secure place. Like we say, first thing is the secure safety.
Sure.
So they need to be in a safe place, and then they need to get things. Like they need to get their health checked. So then they need to have a clean place. So when you actually leave these dogs, and some of them are large dogs. Now, so I'm going to tell you a story. When I see and then judge and criticize these people, I just find myself, last time I was in Turkey, I just find myself in a very similar situation. I'm like, what the hell is wrong with me, right? So until we are challenged and kind of like, we have to deal with these real life issues, we don't know how we are going to actually
Sure.
process these. So, uh, m- like my sister and I, we have our homes very close in Turkey. So during they were going through construction, both of them, and we have a stray dog. It's a dog actually adopted the person who takes care of the homes, um, and he only goes between two homes.
Right.
Rest of the time, like he's able to, walk freely, and he gets his food. Like when it's nighttime, he always comes to one of the homes,
Cool.
wherever that guy is. He adopted the person actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, well, and he doesn't harm anyone.
Right.
And he has his stuff checked, but he doesn't have a stationary place.
Right.
So when I was there, and as I was judging all these people, um, I was walking in the morning, and I see this truck, like one of those, um, like uh, like the minivans, and it has some pet on it. So I'm
Mm.
like, oh, like the Turkey is now really advanced, so they even have pet groomers.
Okay. Yeah. Right.
So I went home, and this minivan was still waiting outside because I didn't read the whole thing. And apparently, it was one of those vehicles that collects the
Okay.
stray animals. So as soon as I realized that, I just went out there
Yeah.
and I started talking to these guys. They're like, "Yeah, we are after that yellow dog." Well, his name's Ashkar. I'm like, "That's our dog." And then the guy says, "Well, there are complaints about him." I'm like, "He doesn't, harm anyone."
Right.
But then I just became like kind of like the irony is like I became one of those people who I judge. I'm like,
Right.
oh, this is probably what they feel. Like once we have that maybe personal connection,
Mm.
we forget about what's right,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
that's kind of like dangerous. So then I argue with these guys, and I put a lot of weight on them,
Right.
drop a lot of names,
Right.
and they left.
Right.
So, and then apparently this dog learned the minivan. So like as soon as he sees the van, he runs.
Yeah.
So
Street
now,
smarts, that's for sure.
but again, like what would be the better place would be for him to be in the more stationary place. Yes, I mean in this situation, if we want this dog to go between two homes, he needs to be supervised
Sure.
because the last thing that you want is the dog, harming a child
Sure.
or like the person, the elderlies, or anyone can be us too. So there has to be that really good balance that at least in my opinion.
Yeah.
So and I'm hoping like and one of the reasons that we do these of course we want to talk about our services, but there's also the culture that we
Hmm.
have in this
Hmm.
country that we really do great.
Hmm.
And I think people really need to hear that and try to at least, like they're not going to get everything on this episode, but they can by searching and seeing how this country did a lot of things in the right way. Not everything I'm saying, but this
Sure.
is one of the areas that we are very advanced.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's no comparison. And in that really advanced spot, our organization is one of the best. And with people like yourself and other team members. So these are all great and important things, and I'm hoping that other countries can learn
For
from
sure.
us.
You're here.
So, no, we didn't, of course, solve the problem of Turkey,
No.
but we will at some
Yeah,
point.
yeah. I mean, some good
Um,
stuff.
Now, these big events that we have, the big partnerships. And I did mention that a little bit in the beginning, but do we have other projects that's coming up? Like we have this in DC, but do we have one in Philly that like our people here they can all participate those big sports events?
Ah, I mean the Stanley Pup was incredibly exciting, and that we're hoping happens again next year, next hockey playoffs. So we're very much hoping that happens again next year. Um, I don't know any specifically sports related coming up, but I don't always know all the pre-planning that goes into that. Our marketing and community engagement teams and development teams are always working their tails off in the background setting up all of these events. I know we just had a cool opportunity with the Wonder Woman movie screening in DC. That was
I
really
see.
cool. That
Hmm.
was just a couple days ago. So I feel like there's always between, our exposure in DC and then everything out here in Delaware and Pennsylvania, I feel like there's almost always something, which is really exciting because again, it's getting the message out, about the work. I could go on about different adoption events that are upcoming or different, our fundraisers. But the sporting events stuff is new and definitely really exciting.
So, I mean, we want to see that in Philly for sure,
Yeah,
hopefully.
yeah.
Um, Now, from your own position as the Chief Operating Officer of the Brandywine Valley SPCA, from the public standpoint, what should the public be watching over the next few years from Brandywine standpoint?
I think we're always going to be here to prioritize our local communities. So as far as what you should be watching, you should always be ready for us to be there at a moment's notice to help locally. And then from there, when it comes to like exciting stuff on the horizon, I think that's what it to me is exciting is just what we talked about before, where we're always looking for what the next opportunity is to help. And so I think that's what's exciting is there's that unknown of what's going to come next, what opportunity is going to come our way that just expands our, impact to pets and people across the country. So I think that's what is sort of exciting is sort of the unknown, but the what is known is that we are always scanning and looking, to create that impact as far and wide as possible while, staying here true to our roots, to all of our local
Hmm.
communities. So to me, that's exciting, is balancing those two things. We've got obviously various events coming up. We always love our gala every year,
That's end of September.
end of September. We've got Bark on the Boards in Rehoboth in October. That is always super fun. We have adoption events all the time. We'll have our Clear the Shelters adoption event in August. We'll have our in-house mega
Hmm.
adoption around Christmas time. I could go on, but there's always something to look forward to.
So one thing that I do want to mention is, from the United Medical standpoint, we, other than what I do personally, I want our company to be more involved, which we did a lot of different new stuff. Like Ethan here has been in. Ethan, how many times have you?
Aqua?
Yeah,
Oh, that's a good question.
yeah, a
Might
lot,
be
right?
like about 10 times.
10 times, okay.
Nice.
And I saw Phil, you did last time,
The walk, the run.
yeah.
It's awesome.
So, but we want to create a culture in United Medical, and that's one of the things that I would advise other companies,
Yeah.
because workplaces, we spend a lot of time together, and this is, yes, the work is the main thing. It's important, but also being able to create a culture that we are able to share other things
Yeah, that's
in
great.
life, and the goal, like doing things together, building teams, and that's really important. And that's also one of the places where with Brandywine that we do is we have this partnership that we have people who already know. Like, I'm sure when Ethan went there 12th time, that's not how it was on the first time.
Sure.
So then he now knows better what he needs to do, and then he also, the new people we have in our team, he's able to tell
Yeah.
them what to expect, and being able to be part of something that's really meaningful.
Mhm.
So I think all companies, if they have enough number of employees, they should really engage and participate in those. And that's why also it's really
Yeah,
important for me.
that's great. Thank you.
So, I was just looking at the time, and I'm like, did I ask all of my questions? It just went too quickly. So we can do another
That was
two
fast.
hours.
I know. No.
But this is still like this is our third time we have this with the Brandywine Valley SPCA. Tanner was our
Yep.
first one, and then you were our second and third. And our goal is to make sure that there are people out there who may be wondering what Brandywine does, and then it doesn't have to be just our organizations, any other animal shelters,
Yeah.
how we can actually help, how we can be part of the process. I'm hoping that they would be able to learn from what we discussed today.
Mhm.
Now, this is, the animal welfare, and then animal welfare is not someone else's responsibility. It's the society that we
Yeah.
live in, and we are always grateful that God actually give us the greater ability to know others and manage others. So that's why human being have a better um, responsibility, right?
Mhm.
So, and this is what the animal welfare is about. So we are more responsible and we have to do more. And I'm hoping that our audience is able to benefit from our episode. And for those who want to get more information, you can actually visit Brandywine Valley SPCA's website and then learn more about the adoptions and the support and becoming a foster family, hopefully.
Yeah.
So, Mike, thank you so much for joining us today. And we'll be back for another Bariatric Friday episode at 3 p.m. Thank you. Bye-bye, and stay united.